It's good to be back, and I have a lot to say about the current Real Housewives shows that are airing, Summer House, and In the City. So let's get into it. Let's start with Real Housewives of Atlanta. I'm enjoying the new season. I like to always give shows a fair shot, especially when the cast has changed. And I have been very pleased with Real Housewives of Atlanta. I loved the first episode. I loved episode 2. I like the vibe we're getting. I like the cast. I like the new people they introduced. I like the people that have remained on the cast. I really enjoy the dynamic we're getting thus far. Episode 2 was also very enjoyable for me. Highlights have been K. Michelle for sure. I find K. Michelle to be so funny, so silly. She's not without fault. I did see her interview talking about dating R. Kelly, talking about Andre Kelly's not a victim. Listen, she's not perfect, and she's going to have some controversial opinions. I am not a K. Michelle stan. I watched her on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. She's not going to always say things that we like and that we agree with, and you just have to take the good with the bad. She is not without fault, but I still think she'll be really interesting on Atlanta. I did see K. Michelle eat up Robyn and Giselle on her interview, and I laughed at what she said about Robyn and Giselle, but I did not like what she said about R. Kelly. But I think she's a great reality TV star, and she's hilarious, and she can hold her own. I'm happy she's there, and I think she's a great addition. I'm looking forward to seeing the scene that we're going to get in episode 3 with K. Michelle and Porsha, because I think this is going to be two equals coming at each other. I can't wait to see how they navigate it, because Porsha and K. Michelle are both funny, they're both shady, and they both can hold their own in arguments. So I'm excited to see how that goes. Because one thing about Porsha is everybody that's friends with her eventually has an issue with Porsha. It's impossible to be her friend and not have an issue, because Porsha is selfish. She's shady. She lies. She does sleep with married men. Porsha is not someone to be trusted. I do not have the highest opinion of Porsha, so I'm not shocked that this early into filming, K. Michelle and Porsha have an issue. And I'm wondering if their issue will continue throughout filming. Like, I'm very curious if we're going to see this back and forth dynamic with those two. And I would enjoy seeing that, because they're two equals. Kelly was no match for Porsha. Listen, Kelly tried, but she couldn't go at Porsha, because what I loved about Porsha in that scene is she was shady but so calm. She was eating Kelly up. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't break a sweat. She didn't get upset. She was giving it to Kelly. And Porsha came into the scene prepared. She knew what tea she was going to drop. She knew how she was going to drop it. And that scene was such a great example of a veteran versus a newbie. But I appreciated the fact that Porsha was willing to tango with Kelly. Something we saw in the past with Atlanta, especially with Nene in her later seasons. Nene wouldn't even give the girls the respect to argue with them. Nene acted as if the women, the new ones, were beneath her and not even worth her time. So I appreciate Porsha as being one of the veterans on the show now, still willing to argue with the new girls, even when Porsha knows these new girls can't take. They can't take Porsha. Listen, I'm not the biggest Porsha fan, but I gotta give her 10s when they're due and when they've been earned. I said in a prior video that Porsha is not a center housewife, that we saw that last season. Porsha is a great Atlanta housewife. She has been for seasons. She brings a good amount to the show. She's not a good center, and I feel like this season she's not going to be that center housewife. And I like that the first 2 episodes don't feel that way. Like, these 2 episodes don't feel like there's any one person in charge of the girls. It feels like the group is figuring that out. It feels like everyone is getting to know each other. Dynamics are forming. We're seeing what everybody's made of, and that is really enjoyable for me. It's a very new and fresh dynamic, and I really feel like these girls have more in common. They would hang out with each other. They're all in pretty similar places in their life for the most part. With the exception of Angela, K. Michelle, and Pinky, they are all unmarried. But even when you have K. Michelle, she just got married 2 weeks ago. So I like that we have this dynamic of all of these women who are in a very similar place in life. They're similar ages. And I feel like that makes for a better show, because you just have more cohesion. When it comes to the prevalence of the fake relationships on Real Housewives of Atlanta, I'm blaming production. And my reason is because if you saw 1 or 2 women with fake relationships, I would think that's the doing of that woman. But when you see pretty much everybody in that first episode is bringing in a new partner or this unserious new relationship, I question if they all were getting the same message and pressure from production to bring men around. So if you go back to last season, and some of the feedback and criticism fans have had about this show for the last few years is there's so many single women. I do believe there are some Black women who watch this show and don't like the representation of this cast, meaning they don't like the fact that Atlanta, one of the only Black housewife shows, is full of single women. I think there's a lot of Black women who have this idea about respectability and like want the Black women to be married to showcase Black women do get married. I don't really care about that, but I think that's where some of the criticism comes from. So I wonder if production put pressure on the girls before this new season started filming, saying, y'all need to bring some men around. I wouldn't think that if it was just Porsha with her fake boyfriend and just Kelly with her fake boyfriend. But when you see all of them are bringing these men around for these relationships that feel very, very new and very unserious, it makes me feel like it's a broader problem with the production and the messaging than just the women have collectively all decided we're going to move in this direction. Even when you look at people like K. Michelle, K. Michelle married her man like a couple weeks before filming started. K. Michelle has admitted that when they were doing pre-production, she was dating somebody else, and that's who production expected her to bring on the show as her man. She said she was about to marry this man. Something happens there, her man, the dentist, pops up and they get married. It does feel like K. Michelle wanted to come on the show with a man. It does make me question, did production voice that to her very clearly that you need to bring a man on this show? When it comes to Phaedra and Chi-Chi, Phaedra introduced us to Chi-Chi in season 11 of Married to Medicine. They met at a speed dating event. I don't recall us seeing any solo scenes with Phaedra and Chi-Chi on Married to Medicine or in Atlanta last year. It seems like she brings Chi-Chi out because she doesn't want to go to an event without a date, and she brought Chi-Chi out for Porsha's first event on this season. I don't really think they're that serious, and that's fine, but that's very new. It's new for us to have housewives bringing men on the show when it's not a serious partnership. It's very uncommon. We're not used to women bringing around these men where the relationship is pretty undefined. They hang out sometimes. Sometimes they're plus one at events. I think we're most accustomed to women, if they're not married and they bring a man, it's a pretty serious relationship, because why would you want to bring this random man on the show and attach yourself to him if you're not sure about him? I lean towards some of these relationships are fake. I think Porsha hired Mike for the night. I think Phaedra may see Chi-Chi here and there, but she brings him out for events. I could see Black and Drew having something going on, but it ain't that serious. I don't really think they're dating like that. I think K. Michelle was motivated to lock something down with a man to help her secure this housewife role. And I think production let her know her chances were better if she brought a man on the show. Then you have Gerald, Shamia's husband, which is another great example of why I think production is pushing them to bring their men. We know that Gerald last season got a pass and did not have to film. It seems pretty clear that production expects Gerald to film, which is why we see this conversation and him making an excuse. I don't know if it was true or not, if his plane was delayed, but regardless, I think we're going to see more of Gerald this season. I think that production talked to Shamia and said, you need to bring this man around. So my criticism of that is when you push people to do these type of things, you do end up getting fakeness. A famous quote from Nene about Kenya is, Nene says Kenya is going to really hurt Real Housewives of Atlanta because we know Kenya had Walter on the show in her first season and that relationship seems sketchy. I think that's a very valid concern of what trends are you starting. Again, in this instance, I don't blame any one housewife, but when you put pressure on people to have certain aspects showcased in their life, if they don't have it, they're going to go out and fake it. So I think we're getting some fake relationships, some relationships that aren't serious enough to even be on this show, displayed on this show because the women feel like they need to have a man. And quite frankly, I don't really think the men added that much to the scene, with the exception of Charles going back and forth with K. Michelle. Beyond that, I think that scene could have been just as good without the men. And that's also my second criticism is you don't get the good scenes and dynamics when women have fake boyfriends or men they're really not that serious about. You get the best material when these men are really integrated in their lives and a part of their day to day. When you think about Atlanta, when we had really great husbands and plus ones that gave really interesting storylines, they had real relationships. You don't get your best storylines from fake relationships or casual relationships. So it feels like you have these men there just as wall art. They're not adding a lot to the scene itself. We don't need this. I just don't believe, and we need to push these women to bring men on these shows because I don't see the payoff for having these men on the shows. I like Pinky Cole's addition too. Now, I've heard that Pinky has some shady business practices. She has a habit of stealing wages from her Black employees, which does not sit well with me. But I'm interested in see Pinky's story. I know there's been a lot of discussion about her financial problems. And I just want to say that was a hallmark of Atlanta at one point. Most people don't remember, but after season 1 of Atlanta aired, we had multiple housewives, including Nene, whose houses got foreclosed on or almost got foreclosed on. A housewife having financial issues after her first season is nothing new. I don't think that means that's going to make her a bad housewife. I think it just means we're going to have more interesting storyline from her, and they're probably going to drag her at the reunion for it. But I don't think it's an immediate disqualifier that she's having financial troubles. And Pinky is one of the few women on the show that are married. She has young children. Like, there's some interest there. Her husband also owns a restaurant, which I found it interesting, was very impressive. So thus far, I'm intrigued with Pinky. She's not boring me, which is a good thing. And I'm interested to see more in her dynamic. We now have Kelly and Shamia in their second season. I'm enjoying Kelly more than Shamia. I think Kelly is in a better spot than Shamia. Shamia can be weird and kind of cringy, and I still worry that her major storyline is going to be this distance and beef with Porsha, which is not a winning strategy. It feels like Kelly is mixing it up a little bit more and getting herself better ingrained in the group than Shamia is. I still like Shamia. I just don't know if Shamia has what it takes to be a multi-season housewife. I think season 2 for her will be make or break because she's been a friend for so long. The bar for her is higher. I think for newer housewives like Kelly and Pinky, people are going to be a bit more patient with them developing into their housewife role. Shamia, you've been a friend of for so long. You've been around for so long. It's just like we have a higher expectation of you coming in and being a great, charismatic housewife on this show. I still am loving Angela. I think the worst thing about Angela is the way that Charles talks to her and treats her. Other than that, I think Angela's a great housewife. I get a little embarrassed with her dynamic with Charles, but if she likes it, I love it for her. So still very happy that Angela's there, and I already like the role she's playing. She's getting the mess. She's bringing the girls together. Phaedra, will Phaedra give us anything more than just funny confessionals? Does she have anything more to offer? At this point, Phaedra has been riding on funny confessionals for years now, from this show and to Married to Medicine. Phaedra's best performance was on Traitors. She ran Traitors. I loved her on Traitors. But it feels like Phaedra as a housewife is giving us like 60% of herself. I mean, 60% effort. It feels like she's phoning it in. And it seems like the network loves what she gives. I just know we've seen Phaedra for so many years. She can give way more than this, and she's not giving it. And it feels like she's holding back. What K. Michelle said about her in the trailer was exactly right. All Phaedra does is giggle and say, oh child. That's all we get from Phaedra. We're not getting a lot from her. I hope that changes. It's nice to see her boys grown up, but just in terms of how she interacts with the group, it's like she's just like the peanut gallery all the time, and she's not really doing anything impactful. Despite the fact that I think Porsha is a liar, a deceitful, and a low-down woman, I do actually believe her relationship with Sway is the real deal. Porsha and her lesbian relationship.
What about your lesbian relationship, bitch?
I saw some people say they don't believe that Porsha is really with Sway or like wants to be with Sway. I fully believe that Porsha is dating a woman. The woman in question is Sway, and I think she's happy. I don't really agree that Porsha has always denied her attraction to women. I feel like she has been hesitant to talk about it, but it's been a known fact, and she's admitted to hooking up with women and having an attraction to women. What surprised me about Porsha dating Sway is I never thought Porsha would date a woman in a serious relationship. Porsha reminds me of a lot of bisexual women who are attracted to both genders, but seek out heteronormative relationships, meaning they'll sleep with a woman, but they'll never date a woman exclusively. That shocked me. I felt like Porsha was one of those women, partially because Porsha was raised in the church. There's an old video of Porsha doing a guest sermon at a church, and she's being homophobic in the video. So I think Porsha was raised in that type of culture where it took her a while probably to accept her same-sex attraction. And I thought she would never get to the point of saying, I want to be in a same-sex committed relationship like she is now. I do believe she's with Sway. I do believe she's happy and wants to be with Sway. I think the guy we saw on the show, Mike, that was fake. I think what she has with Sway, I think that's real. And I think partially maybe Porsha's at the place where she's open to being with a woman in a relationship because she's now been married twice. She's had the daughter. She hasn't talked about having more children. I feel like Porsha has checked the list of items she wanted, which was to be with a rich man who takes care of her. It didn't work out in either of her marriages. And it feels like now maybe she's letting that go and she's leaning into being with Sway. But what I see is still consistent about Porsha is her partner is always going to have money and spend it on her. Sway seems to do very well for themselves financially, and that's very consistent with what Porsha likes. just the fact that now it's a woman providing that for her. But that dynamic is a dynamic we've seen Porsha pursue in every relationship she's been with publicly, from Dennis to Cordell to Simon. So that also lends some credibility for me with this relationship. I also believe if the relationship was fake, I think Porsha would have dropped Sway by now. They are still together. She did bring Sway to Watch What Happens Live that aired after episode 2. I think if the relationship was fake, Porsha wouldn't be as public and Porsha wouldn't be bringing Sway around, and maybe things would have dropped off with Sway once the show started airing. So the fact that they're still going strong to me feels like, okay, Porsha's actually invested. Real Housewives of Rhode Island proves we do not need wealthy, rich housewives to have a good show, because a lot of these women don't come off that rich or wealthy, but the show has delivered in the first 3 episodes. We saw more of Joellen's house on this 3rd episode, and I was really struck by, her house looks normal. It looks like it's a good size. She has a pool, but I don't look at her home and think she's wealthy. Even when it comes to Liz, her home is nice and big, but why are all the houses so close together? Like, it doesn't really give wealth to me. It definitely gives, I have money, I'm comfortable, I can buy what I want, do what I want, take vacations the way I want. I would not say that they're wealthy on this show, and that goes for everyone else. We know Kelsey's man is rich, but I don't know if Kelsey has access to the money. So I really hope that people can reconcile with, this show has been really good thus far, and these women are not wealthy. So often we criticize these shows talking about, they're not rich enough. Being rich is not a prerequisite to giving a great housewife show. I think shows like Beverly Hills, and if Miami comes back, can be the shows that give us the aspirational wealth. But you see how shows suffer for that reason. I think partially why Beverly Hills is not interesting to most people is because you have these type of women who have so much to lose. They're going to be a little bit more buttoned up. The best type of housewife comes on the show and has some money, but sees that there's a lot of upside being on the show. For instance, I do not think Cal Richards got significantly richer being on Housewives. I think she got richer because of her husband and the agency. But take a woman like Joellen, there's significant upside for her being on Real Housewives. And those sometimes are the best Real Housewives, because they will be the most invested in staying on this show, sharing things, and making an impact. Women like Sutton, they don't need the show, and they don't really care if they're coming in making a huge splash. So Rhode Island will be the example of a great housewife show that I'm going to pull out my bag whenever people say, we need wealthy housewives, because I don't really think the women on here are that wealthy. What I have enjoyed about Real Housewives of Rhode Island is they have a great balance of personal storylines and interpersonal drama amongst the women. So we're seeing people like Rulla that has a traumatic storyline with her husband cheating. We have Kelsey, who's working through leaving her sugar daddy. You have Liz, who's accused of maybe cheating, maybe not, but then you still have drama amongst the women that is interesting, and that is partially what we watch Real Housewives for. And they have a good balance. Some shows have a hard time striking the right balance of storylines that we want to tune into, storylines that maybe don't even involve other housewives, but then also having really good arguments and fights and drama and interactions amongst the wives that get us to tune in. So that has been something that I really enjoyed about Real Housewives of Rhode Island that I hope they can sustain throughout the whole season. What is interesting are the women coming on this show either with a relationship in crisis or women who are clearly there to gain more independence. It's very obvious with Kelsey. She's on this show because she's trying to leave her long-term boyfriend. I do hope that Kelsey is smart enough to have money stocked away. I hope she has access to some assets. I worry that she doesn't, that her boyfriend has set her up to be totally dependent on him. And I can see why, if that is the case, she's coming on Real Housewives to make her own money. We have the same thing with Alicia, where Alicia is not married to her partner. Her name's not even on the deed. She's here for independence and to make money. And I like that. That's totally fine. I don't think Alicia's coming on the show to leave her partner. I think she's there to make money. I think Kelsey came on the show to leave her partner. I think Ruella, y'all, I don't know about Ruella. She doesn't seem strategic enough for this show. They're going to run circles around her. It's clear that she had to agree to have this cheating storyline featured to be on the show. Hence why she got introduced later. We didn't see her come in until episode 2. I think she had to agree with production that, yes, this can be a topic of conversation if you want to be on the show. Ruella had her husband at Watch What Happens Live, so they're still together. I don't think she's smart enough to come on this show to leave her husband. I don't think she wants to leave her husband. And these girls are going to run circles around her because Joellen and her husband ate up her and her husband Brian on episode 3. I think she's in over her head. I think Brian, her husband, is going to keep cheating on her and keep embarrassing her. And I wonder if she'll come back for a second season. If she stays with her husband, I don't know if I could do it. If I'm getting cheated on, I don't know if I could come back for a second season of being dragged and embarrassed about my man cheating. I mean, eventually that's going to really wear on you, because if you're not on a TV show and your man's cheating, you can do out of sight, out of mind and ignore it. But on this TV show, there's no way to escape it. And this is just from people in the community talking like Joellen. Just imagine now that she's more well known, her husband is more well known. Imagine what stuff is going to pop up on Instagram and Twitter about him cheating. I think it's going to get really bad for her. And I do wonder if this is going to be the best situation for her mental health when she has a cheating husband that I just don't think she wants to live. My early read on Joellen, I like Joellen. She reminds me of Lisa Barlow, but like a smarter Lisa Barlow, like a messier one, like one that's good at stirring up the pot. But she does remind me of Lisa Barlow, just like a very strong personality, a strong presence. Like she's always going to make her mark in a scene in any sort of group dynamic. And I like that about her. I feel like Rosie is a bit out of place. The way that Joellen like fits and seems like she could really be the one that runs the show. It feels like Rosie may be a good messy pot stirrer, but she just feels so disconnected from this group for me that it feels weird. So I'm curious to see how that pans out if she gets a bit more integrated, but she feels unnatural to me with this group. I feel like Ashley, despite not being from Rhode Island, fits in better. I feel like Ashley very clearly has the most cultural and social differences between the others because she isn't from Rhode Island, and she does stick out to me in that way. But it does still feel like she has good relationships with the women and would have a genuine friendship. So despite the fact that Rosie is from Rhode Island, she still sticks out like a sore thumb to me. I do wonder though if Ashley is messy enough for this show. I guess it's good. Everybody doesn't need to be messy. It seems like she has some interesting dynamics with her husband, being a mother of young children. I don't know if she's messy enough. I would love to see how she acts when she has any confrontation or conflict with another housewife. I wonder if we'll see any of that this season, but it feels like she's going to be someone who's very calm and peaceful. And she can play into that if she becomes a mediator. If she is someone who is able to bring girls together when there's conflict, I think Ashley can carve out a good space for herself. But if she doesn't do that, I do worry she's going to fade into the background and be very forgettable. Overall, I'm loving Rhode Island. It does feel like they meant this to be a replacement for New Jersey. And that is potentially why they even had Dolores come join and sort of help launch the show. I was initially worried that Dolores would be too involved and featured too much. It's been great. It's a good balance. We see Dolores a little bit, but she's not a part of everything. I did not want Dolores to be a part of every group scene and every group dynamic. So it's been really good that we're not seeing her integrated that way. It does seem like she's truly showing up as Liz's friend and plus one and not like an extra honorary housewife. And I love that. So I'm no longer questioning the decision to have Dolores help launch this show. But this show does feel like it could have been a replacement for New Jersey. I feel like when they started to develop this show, it was at a time when things with Jersey were very shaky. Obviously now Jersey has been renewed for another season. We know it's going to be Dolores, Teresa, and Melissa. But at the time that Rhode Island was developed and filmed, I felt like New Jersey was questionable in terms of if it's going to come back. So it does feel like Rhode Island is a great replacement for it. We're seeing similar things with like heavy family involvement, and we're seeing these long-term ties and friendships and connections that stretch back to like childhood and school age. That feels very Jersey to me, in addition to the fact that a lot of the people on the show are Italian. So it does feel like New Jersey part two, but I appreciate that the women are still carving out their own space in this Real Housewives world. And I'm really looking forward to this whole season and what becomes a Rhode Island thing. Like, what do they become known for? How do they sort of carve out their own space in Real Housewives, where it feels like Rhode Island is a series that stands on its own versus just a duplicate of New Jersey. Thus far, I don't feel like it's a duplicate of New Jersey, though it has a Jersey feel. And I think that bodes really well for Rhode Island's success moving forward. Quick thoughts on Beverly Hills. I have enjoyed this season, but the issue is none of the drama on Beverly Hills started until the last half of the season. So now that the season finale is airing this week, it feels like, what? We didn't see anything. Like, I enjoyed the season, but it does feel like nothing happened until the last 4 episodes, and they have got to figure out how to get these girls going earlier in the season. Production has got to push these women to start things up much sooner than starting things up in episode 12. That is why it feels like nothing happened in this season. Now, don't get me wrong. The trip to Italy was great. The fight between Erica and Dorit was exhilarating. I That fight was so good for me because I don't like Erica or Dorit, and there's nothing better than seeing a good fight between two people you don't like. I don't like either one of them. I find Dorit entertaining this season, but I still don't like Dorit. So seeing them go at each other was just it was so satisfying for me because I wasn't rooting for either one. I was able to just enjoy the fight and hear the insults. I do think Erica got the best of Dorit in that fight. I think Erica ate Dorit up. I think everything Erica said was true. Dorit is not a good friend. Dorit is selfish. Dorit does not give credit where credit is due. But I also think Erica is selfish. I also don't think Erica's that great of a friend. I think she's self-absorbed. So it was two people fighting who are so similar to me, but the fight was good. The fight for me was the best part of the season, but we got the fight in episode 14, and that's part of the problem. It shouldn't take this long for us to get to the best part of the season. Bose's engagement to Keely, girl, I don't know. It's surprising to me, given Bose's age and the fact that she's been married before, that she would make such a bad decision with Keely. I could rationalize it if Bose was a woman who had never been married, never had kids, and maybe was a little desperate. Bose has had that. Yes, her husband did die tragically from cancer, but Bose has had that experience. Bose is an older woman. I just wouldn't expect Bose to agree to marry a man like Keely, especially considering there's a huge income gap. Keely said some questionable things when he was talking to Bose and her daughter Lael about money. It just seems like things that I would expect a woman like Bose to pick up on and see as an issue. I also think, considering the amount of money Bose has, California is a community property state. Why marry him? I think a lot more women with money are smartly making decisions to not marry. Maybe we'll have children together. Maybe we'll have some financial agreements in place, but I'm not going to tie myself to you legally and financially. So I'm surprised that she's marrying Keely, because say what you want about Bose, but I do think she's a very intelligent woman. So this doesn't jive with my perception of her. The engagement, it wasn't that romantic to me. Like, I wasn't that impressed. I don't know. I just think that I have a slight bias against Keely, and I kind of question his motives when it comes to Bose. But she seems very happy. If she's happy, I love it. It did stand out to me that Bose and Dorit say they're such good friends, but Dorit was not at the engagement. Kind of questionable, because I'm like, okay, so how close are you that Dorit was not at your engagement, your filmed engagement? That was a huge production. That to me is very questionable if Bose and Dorit are as good of a friend as they like to portray it. Overall, Beverly Hills was a better season this season than last season. I did enjoy it. It did keep my interest. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best season. There's still some things I need to work on, but if they can just focus on introducing more drama and things happening earlier in the season, then I do have a lot of hope for next season. Okay, let's get into Potomac. We got to talk about this casting. So, Potomac's my favorite topic. I'm just very invested in Potomac. It's probably been my favorite housewife show for the last few years. It changes, but based off how Potomac has been compared to other shows, Potomac has been a show I've been pretty invested in, like season 8, 9, 10. I want to point out that Bravo announced and confirmed the cast. There are still 2 women that are potentially being tested, but they've confirmed the people that are firm and have signed contracts. This is not something Bravo has always done historically, but they've been doing this more recently, confirming the cast, and I like it. I like that it cuts down on the rumors and the speculation. I believe next season's Potomac cast is what it is because it's hard for production to cast new housewives, and they would rather cast women where they know exactly what they're going to get. So we have a confirmation that Robyn is coming back as a friend of. We did hear that Robyn was offered a friend of contract last season and turned it down, and she now has accepted it. I believe they wanted people like Robyn back and Ashley because they know what they're going to get, and they need people who can be an antagonist to Wendy and Karen. So when it comes to Robyn and Karen, Robyn is going to be on Karen's head. I do not think she's going to go lightly on Karen, and I think Robyn will be the one to hold Karen accountable. If we look at how the reunion went, Giselle didn't go hard on Karen. Ashley didn't go hard on Karen. Nobody did. Nobody pressed her. And I think that's going to continue. I think Giselle is going to handle Karen and Wendy with kid gloves. So the producers want someone to go after Karen for these issues. They want someone that's going to press Karen and ask Karen questions about her experience and her drinking and try to hold her accountable. You know you're going to get that with Robyn, but if you have a new housewife, you can't guarantee that you're going to get that. 1, because it's an unknown, but 2, new housewives are not going to come in and go at an OG like that. They don't have the history. They don't have the context. They're strangers. It's not going to happen. So if you want that to be a dynamic of that season, you must cast someone who you know will deliver that. It's the same thing with Ashley. I think Ashley is going to be going at Wendy. I feel like Ashley will throw some digs at Karen, but I think Ashley will be going hard at Wendy. And that's a solid reason to bring Ashley back. You need someone that's going to talk crap about Wendy and her case and put her feet to the fire. And if you think about the cast we have now, and even the cast of season 10, Robyn and Ashley are the only two who would do that. Even if you kept Angel and Keiarna, they wouldn't do that, and they probably would not be able to do that effectively. I don't see Monique doing that. Monique was crying about Karen at the reunion. Monique wasn't going to go at Karen. Jassi wasn't going to go at Karen. And Giselle does not seem like she's going to go at Karen or Wendy that hard. I think Giselle will make jokes and she'll laugh at their expense, but I don't see Giselle going at either one of them. So it makes sense why you would say, let's do Robyn and Ashley. We know exactly what those two will deliver, and they will deliver exactly what we want and need them to deliver this season. So when it comes to Angel, Keiarna, Jassi, and Monique not making the cut, first I'll say there's rumors that Monique has not been able to sign on yet, but she may sign on, that there's some issues with Chris Samuels, that he doesn't want the children to film, that there's some restrictions. I've heard online that she may still sign on. I've also heard that Bravo is less interested in her signing on because of what she can't show. Allegedly, Cookie did DM somebody some of the tea, and that is what Cookie said, but who knows? Because Cookie, she's not a reliable source when it comes to Monique and Chris Samuel. She's very biased. Now, Angel and Keiarna not being on the cast surprised me. I don't know if they weren't asked back. It's definitely possible that they were offered friend of roles. They could have been offered housewife roles. I believe if Keiarna was offered anything, she would have said yes. I could see Angel saying no to friend of, but regardless, I question if Angel was offered simply because of her edit at the reunion. The fact that that Colorado trip got such little airtime was probably an indication that the network was not invested in Angel moving forward. Because if they thought Angel would come back, whether they were going to ask her or she would say yes, I think we would have spent more time on that trip at the reunion, in addition to the fact that Angel could have gotten just a little bit more airtime. So in retrospect, I think the writing was on the wall for Angel. I also don't think it served her to have those rumors start about production setting her up. I do believe Angel started the rumors that production set her up or sabotaged her Colorado trip. I don't think you can get away with that when you're a first season housewife and you weren't an amazing first season housewife that blew people away. I think when you're making allegations through back channels that production is setting you up, it's really easy for production to feel like, yeah, we don't want to work with this woman anymore. So I think that did her in. I think Keiarna, we've just seen her so much now. It's clear she's not going to be the best housewife. They may have said you can do a friend of role, but not a housewife role. And Jassi, it makes sense. Jassi's fine. I mean, she struggled to really find her footing in this group, and I don't think Jassi should have really been housewife. She could have continued to be a friend of, but Jassi's issue is she didn't have enough relationships with the people on the cast. Like, it would feel weird to have her as a friend of, considering she's not really that close to any of the confirmed housewives. We may get our first fully white woman on Potomac. I say fully because I believe Giselle and Robyn both have about 50 to 60% European blood genetically, but we're going to get our first I identify as white woman on this cast. It's giving Kim Zolciak, right? So let's talk about these two new people that are testing. They're testing. We don't know if they're going to end up as housewives or they're going to end up as friends of. This is very new for Potomac. It's an interesting choice. It's surprising. I did not expect them to be testing a white woman. From what we know, Brittany Ford is a party planner. She's married to a man who's black or he's brown. I can't tell his race, but she is Stacey's friend. So I've been saying since last season, Stacey needs a friend on this show. It's really critical because her relationships are shaky with the exception of Wendy. She needs a friend. So I'm not mad at them casting a friend for Stacey. I do not like forced diversity. I don't like it on any other shows. I don't think it works. And by forced diversity, I mean you're integrating a woman that this cast will not be friends with. I get the sense that Karen, Giselle, Wendy, Robyn mostly have a circle of black women as friends. I don't really see them having a lot of white women as friends, and that's typical. Most people in America, our friend groups look just like us. Most people do not have a diverse friend group, so that's not shocking. So it does feel weird to me because I really question, with the exception of Stacey and Ashley, and maybe even a little bit of Tia, do they even have white women as friends? Like, is this going to be a weird, awkward dynamic to insert her? Kim Zolciak was a friend of Nene's. Kim Zolciak had a relationship with Sheree prior to the show. Like, this wasn't something where Kim, on this cast of all black women, knew one woman. This wasn't the case where Kim Zolciak joined the show and knew one woman loosely because I can't tell how close Stacey is to Brittany Ford. So I do worry about that. I just like, I don't know. I we only have 2 housewife shows that are the black housewife shows. I really don't need them to add a white woman. If it feels natural, great. I'm happy that she's Stacey's friend. I think that's good. I'm curious to see how this goes. I can't even predict how it's going to go, but it's going to be different. It's going to be a new dynamic because, again, I think the most of this cast does not socialize with white women that much. So it's going to feel a little weird to me on this show. When it comes to the other woman that's being tested, her name is Courtney. You have 2 women who are fairly young. Brittany does not have any children. I believe Brittany just got married within the last few years. Courtney seems to have young children. So it's interesting they're adding 2 housewives who are on the younger side. I believe they're both under 40. I did say in my video about Giselle that one thing that's really important to maintain power dynamics on this show is I think you need older housewives. I think you need women who are in their 50s. Stacey's in her 50s. Karen is 60. Giselle's in her 50s. I think Robyn is close. I think that's the best dynamic for this show because I don't think they're going to get the same level of respect on this show if you're a young woman. I think that's really important. And I do think it easily and quickly creates this dynamic where they're going to defer to the older women, especially people like Giselle. But I do think it's a part of the trend. I've been saying this and I'm sticking with this. I do think Bravo will continue to age down the cast, where the average age of a housewife cast will continue to get lower and lower. It makes sense because if you cast someone younger, you do have more to show with this person. When you're casting women who are newly married, we get to see them go on their journey of having children potentially, or see them on the journey of raising their children. So there's a benefit to casting younger women, but it does stand out to me that the 2 they're testing are on the younger side. I want to talk about the importance of not just race, but skin tone. And we're going to talk about this for Potomac, but also in the city. Part of why I don't love the fact that they're casting a white woman on Potomac is because the other woman they're testing is also light skinned. And I do believe skin tone matters. Potomac is a show that has always leaned very light. The women are black up until now, but they've been very light skinned. We haven't got a lot of dark skin or brown women. You have Monique, who you could argue sometimes is light skin in the winter. You have Stacey, who's brown. You have Candace. You have Wendy. You have Nneka, who are dark skinned. But we don't get a lot of women on this show who are not light-skinned women who I think genetically probably have upwards of 40 to 60% European blood. Yes, they are culturally black. Yes, they identify as black. Yes, they go into the world and people view them as black. But as black people, we know skin tone matters. We know that there are advantages to being light-skinned, not just in the black community, but also in the broader American society. We see this across cultures. We see this in Asian cultures. We see this in African cultures and Indian cultures where lighter skin is valued and prioritized and people who are lighter are treated differently. So it is frustrating for me that we're introducing 2 new housewives. One is white, one is also on the lighter side. It just feels like Potomac will continue this trend. And I don't want forced diversity, and I don't want forced diversity in race or skin tone. Like, let it be natural. But that's why I question, would it be forced to add a brown or dark skinned woman? Like, do these women not have people in their social circle who are not light bright like them? And I say that for Giselle, Ashley, for Robyn, for Karen. Like, do we not have other women they could cast that they know who aren't white or light skinned? As we enter 11 seasons of Potomac, production can and should do better on this topic by casting other women who are unquestionably black, who are majority black in terms of their DNA. And I just don't understand why we haven't seen a shift in that direction. We're not going to see it, it sounds like, for season 11, but it seems like production does not care about that. And I think that's a miss. I do think diversity in skin tone is really important. And we just don't get that on Potomac. And we've never had that issue on Atlanta. Atlanta, the other black show, Married to Medicine. We've never had that. Married to Medicine and Atlanta have always had a wide diversity of skin tones with their women on the show, yet we're not getting that with Potomac. And I really, at this point, do not understand why. Even as someone, I used to live in Washington, D.C., the city itself. It's not like everybody in the city is light skinned. Even when you look at Angela and Keiarna and Jassi and Keiarna were dark skinned, but they're not on the show anymore. I don't know. It's just something that I feel like Potomac has to do better with, and just getting more diversity in skin tones. Related to diversity in skin tones, let's talk about In the City. So In the City this week released their trailer and also released their cast. In the City has a similar problem where they don't have a diversity in skin tones. When you look at this, and many people saw just the cast photo and immediately reacted and said, oh, this show is so white. technically they have people on the show who are people of color. We have Danielle, who's Latina. You have a man who's biracial, who's half black, half Asian. We have another man, he's brown. I'm not sure of his race exactly, but I don't think that he's white, and I don't think he identifies as white. But the issue is, even for those three people I named, they kind of blend in. Like, if you were to have KJ or Ciara in this cast, you wouldn't say, oh, the cast is so white. You might still say that, but you feel like, okay, we have two objectively black people on this show. When it comes to Danielle, she's Latina, but she's mixed more so. She might even identify as a white Latina. Her partner on the show is a white man. The other man on the show is biracial. He's not fully black. The other guy on the show that's brown, again, I don't know his race, but I don't think he's white, but he's on the lighter side. And we talk about race diversity a lot, but not diversity in skin tone. And I think it's important because a trend that we've been seeing within the last 10 years within American media when it comes to movie and scripted shows is a lot of times the black person they cast, quote unquote black, is biracial, or the person is light skinned. And that is a problem. That is a problem, that every time a black person is represented and it's seen as a diverse cast, that black person happens to be damn near white passing, biracial, or light skinned. I think it's important to talk about this because, as I mentioned, skin tone and bias against darker skin tones is something that stretches across the globe. It impacts many cultures, countries, and societies, and has existed for years, and is still a thing that impacts us now. So it's not enough just to say, oh, we have a diverse cast, this person is brown, when it's like, okay, but you don't have anybody on this show darker than a paper bag. It's like, great, this person is a person of color, but a variety of skin tone is important. And again, if you had KJ or Ciara on this cast, I don't think you would get this cast photo and immediately think, oh, this cast is white. You wouldn't, right? You would visibly see them. But the others on this cast, I don't know, they kind of blend in. Something I am frustrated about within the city, besides the lack of diversity, is the fact that Ciara was not casted on this show. And I think it's because they're following the model of The Valley. And I think that's a mistake. So Bravo has had a lot of success with The Valley, which is a Vanderpump spinoff. And when they initially casted, they were casting people who were in couples. The only people they had on this show that were single was Zach, but even Zach had a boyfriend, and things now have got more serious and his boyfriend's on the show. But initially it was couples, and it seemed like they didn't have certain people casted on this show because they weren't partnered. Like Lala wasn't casted and Tom Schwartz wasn't casted initially. I think in the city, it's clearly trying to replicate the success of The Valley. We know The Valley was good enough that they have relaunched Shaws of Sunset as The Valley Persian style, and they had a similar model of featuring mostly couples. So in my head, I think the reason Ciara and Carl did not get to join in the city is because they weren't partnered. I think they're going to allow Lindsay to be the one single person, because you need her on reality TV. She's a great reality TV star. And it feels like they looked at Carl and Ciara and said, you're single, so you stay on Summer House. And it feels like that doesn't make sense considering Ciara's tenure and impact on Summer House. And now you have this issue with the lack of visible diversity, because I do think that this cast of In the City has a mostly white friend group. Remember, Ciara came to Summer House because she was dating Luke. They did not have a prior friendship with Ciara. I wouldn't be shocked if their first and only black friend is still Ciara. I wouldn't be shocked if prior to the scandal, Amanda doesn't have any other black girlfriends. I believe the same for Lindsay. I think the same for Cal Cook. I think they do exist in a white world, hence why their spinoff that features them has a ton of white people and damn near white people on the show. But that is why it was a miss to not have Ciara, because they have so few black friends, and the one that they have that you can justify being on the show, you don't cast. Ultimately, within the city, I just hope that they don't limit who will be on this show to just people who are partnered, because they may miss out on some really good reality TV. I always use Lindsay as an example. Imagine if they did not cast Lindsay because Lindsay wasn't partnered, when Lindsay gives so much to any reality TV show she's on. So I hope with season 2, they figure out the casting without consideration of their partner or marital status to make sure they have the very best show. And then on top of that, now you have an issue of how do you effectively capture this scandal? An issue I've always had with Summer House is the time frame between when they film and when they air. They start filming in July. They don't film until the next year in the fall. There's so much time that passes between the season wrapping and it airing. You run into these issues. So now you have this big scandal and you have to figure out, well, how do we feature it? Because you should capture it. In theory, you would think they want to capture this fallout and this drama beyond just the reunion. But it feels weird to tack it onto Summer House, a show that's about the summer, and this scandal happens in March. It feels very awkward. But then you say, well, do you tack it on to In the City? But how do you do that on In the City when Ciara's not a castmate? West isn't a castmate. If they had casted Ciara on In the City, they could have easily went back, filmed more, got more footage of Ciara, the whole group handling this fallout, tack it onto the season, but also re-edit the season to sort of bring this storyline to fruition. And you'd be able to capitalize on the interest in the scandal to help launch In the City and be successful. But because they didn't want to cast her, they lost that opportunity. So it serves Bravo right for not choosing Ciara for In the City. Because some people say, well, oh, Ciara should still be on Summer House. They've never said that the In the City people won't be on Summer House. Kyle, when he's done interviews, has said it's kind of up in the air. They've never firmly said we'll never see them. My expectation is that they're going to do what Lindsay's doing this season, where they still pop in and out. Ciara could have done the exact same thing. Ciara is one of the most tenured people on this show. She's been on the show since season 5. It, to me, felt like a slap in the face to not have her on the show in addition to Carl, but especially considering how little diversity is on this show, to not have Ciara was a huge miss for production in Bravo. They were silly for that decision. It was dumb, and now they're going to miss out on being able to cleanly showcase and capitalize on this scandal with Amanda and West. I wonder if Bravo plans to protect Amanda and West from this scandal in order to protect the 2 shows that they are going to be leading in the future. So there's a rumor that they are going to do a spinoff of Summer House focused on the Ozarks in Missouri, which is where West is from, and that West is going to help that show launch. Similar to how we launched Summer House and it was a Stassi Vanderpump Rules tie-in, similar to how Dolores went to Rhode Island to help launch that show, similar to how In the City is a spinoff and you have Kyle Cook, you have Amanda, and you have Lindsay who are help launching that show. I think Bravo is going to be leaning into this concept of take popular cast members from current shows and help them launch this spinoff to make it successful. And it sounds like from rumors that was the plan for West to do it Summer House and the Ozarks. I also believe for In the City, Amanda was being teed up to be the protagonist. This was going to feature Amanda leaving Kyle, the fallout from that, and Amanda sort of owning her independence, coming into her own, choosing herself, her journey of self-worth, self-love, all those things when a woman leaves a man. And how do you do that if people don't like Wes and Amanda? How do you use them? How do you capitalize on their likability to get people to tune into these new shows if people don't like them? How do you do that with Amanda, where we're going to show her journey of leaving Kyle and her empowerment journey when people have in the back of their heads what she did with Wes and how she betrayed Ciara? The same thing with Wes. How do you get people to like West the same way they did prior, where they're like, yes, I will watch West lead this new show and launch it without feeling like I don't want to watch because I don't like West and I don't want to support him? So my theory is that Bravo may not lean into this scandal as hard as they lean into Scandival because they need to protect Amanda and West's reputation. Some of that, too, is because we cannot get confirmation that they picked up filming. With big scandals lately, starting with Scandival, Bravo has resumed filming to capitalize on it. We're not getting that with Amanda and West. And I do question if it's because Bravo does not want this scandal to grow. Bravo needs these 2 people to be well liked. Bravo cannot let West and Amanda become the villains and be as hated as Tom Sandoval because they have 2 shows that may be riding on their likability. So that's my theory. We will see, I think, over the next few weeks how true that is. I think the reunion will be extremely telling as to whether or not my theory has any legs. I think if we see the reunion structured in a way where it tries to lessen some of the heat those 2 are getting, where they try to downplay what happened, I think that will be a good indication that Bravo is saying, hey, we need Amanda and West to carry these 2 new shows. We cannot allow public opinion to be that negative about them. And for me, whether or not they pick up filming and they feature any of this fallout on Summer House or In the City will also tell me that, because with other scandals, they want to capitalize and they're not concerned how people come across. They picked up filming for Scandival. When Wendy and Eddie got arrested on Potomac, they picked up filming. Like, this has been a reoccurring theme when Bravo wants to capitalize and drive more interest in the scandal. If they don't pick up filming, to me, that says they do not want to drive more interest in this scandal, that they want this to die down and go away. And I think it's to protect those 2 new shows that they need to be successful. Amanda and West bopping around New York City this past weekend after Amanda posts on Instagram that she needs to get back to normal life. I think she did that so she could easily go out with West and people not question it. I definitely understand her point of she needs to get back to normal life. She can't be in hiding forever. She does look silly with West. West is bad news for any woman. I am a little shocked that she's still with him, seemingly, despite all of the stories that have come out about all the women that West has been with while he's with Amanda. It does look crazy to me that she complained so much about her husband Kyle partying, and now she's doing a lot of partying and bar hopping with West. But ultimately, that is the type of person West is. West is the same person that Kyle Cook was when Amanda first met him. He's the shinier, newer version of Kyle, in my opinion. And I do not see this working out well for her. I continue to say West is a very selfish, self-interested person, and he's only concerned about himself and his own image. And I do not see him vigorously defending Amanda the way that Kyle did in the interviews that he did. Kyle was very, very defensive of Amanda, and I think it's appropriate. He still loves her. Remember, Amanda left him. He didn't want to end the marriage. I think he's probably still in love with her. I think he feels a lot of valid concern for her and how she's doing. So I was not shocked by the way that Kyle has responded, and I hope Amanda knows she will not get that from West. I do not see West defending and protecting her at the reunion. I think he's going to be trying to protect himself, but I don't see him showing up for Amanda the way that Kyle did. And when it comes to Kyle and Amanda, I do think Kyle would go back and take her back. I don't think that's good for Amanda because Kyle was not a good husband. Let's not lose sight of the facts. Kyle was wronged in some way with this situation, but that does not absolve Kyle of all the bad that he did. He has mistreated Amanda for years. I believe he has cheated on her. He was not a good husband. I fully support Amanda leaving that crazy man. And let's also acknowledge, we've also seen Kyle not be the best friend to Carl either. Sometimes you can say, okay, this person's a horrible husband, but he's a great friend. I can't really say that Kyle is a great friend. Kyle is a great friend to people like Ciara, but we don't see him consistently be a good friend. So not too much on Kyle. Let's not act like this man is absolved of everything. We're going to rewrite history about Kyle Cook. He was a horrible husband. He deserved to be left. I hope Amanda does not go back to him. And I don't think she will. I think Kyle would take her back, but I think Amanda is done with him. I think she's truly done with him. Because once we fall out of love, we're done. There's no going back. Like there's nothing left there for Amanda, I believe. Overall, I'm enjoying the shows. Summer House has been good even before the scandal. I'm enjoying Real Housewives of Atlanta. I'm enjoying Real Housewives of Rhode Island. I'm watching other things like Ladies of London. I just don't have time to talk about it. Same with Married to Medicine. I watched it. I just didn't have time to talk about season 12. But I'm pleased with where we are right now with Bravo. Even Beverly Hills has pleased me thus far. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe and follow me on TikTok. I have the same name there. And check out some of my other videos. I did do a rundown of my thoughts on the Summer House, Amanda, West, and Ciara situation right before the statement came out confirming that they were together, though I think my predictions still hold despite the fact that I made the video before they came out with the statement. Also check out the debrief video I did for March that focused on other Bravo related shows and topics and a few of my theories. I said in my last video, my next video will be Married to Medicine. I have filmed the Married to Medicine video. It is an in-depth deep dive. We are talking about Married to Medicine over 12 seasons. We're talking about Married to Medicine and patriarchy. That's kind of the general theme of it. I filmed that video like a few days ago, and it is literally 2 hours worth of footage. So the video itself will probably be over an hour. So it's just a lot to edit and put together. But that is something that I will be prioritizing over the next week or so to get that done. But I just had some pressing things to say about the state of Bravo and Real Housewives. And look, life has been lifing for me. I do have a 9-to-5. I have a full-time job. My job has been busy. It's been busy. I cannot stress enough how busy my job has been, and it's been pretty exhausting. I had some travel. My birthday recently passed. I'm an Aries sun, if you're curious, so I did some celebrations with friends. So yeah, have to take time for me to live life. I can't spend all my time filming and editing and posting, but I definitely want to get back into posting. I'm happy I did this video to kind of share my thoughts on some of the shows currently airing. And again, my priority really over the next week or so is to finish the Married to Medicine video to get that posted. So if you made it this far, I appreciate your time in watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.